It live. Okay, so for those of you who are in regenerative business ecosystem, this is a little different than our normal live Q&As. Our normal live Q&As are like it's close to the public, it's a smaller group because it's only members only, but this we're doing a fun public Q&A. So thank you everyone who sent in questions ahead of time, but so happy you're here. So first question is from Emily. And it is on launching. What's your strategy for free offers versus low ticket? For example, I thought of an offer called How to Make Friends as an Adult and wanted to position it as a freebie. This would be my second freebie. I also have one called The Revillaging Playbook, but I also wanted to make another guide called the Postpartum Village Guide or something like that. How do I know when I should be charging $5 to $15 for something versus for free? I'm in phase two of business building, so trying to get reps in and grow my audience. I'm assuming I should do things for free, but also want to grow my income. My main ticket offers right now are one-to-one coaching for 4 months and an online membership. Okay, so such a good question, and people ask this all the time. What I like to think about with low ticket is unless I am doing ads to a low ticket thing, I generally make things free. And I wouldn't say I have a big audience by any means, but I'm established. There's like almost 20,000 people on Instagram. We have 10,000 on the email list, and I still do most of my things for free. That is because if I'm doing an online launch, for example, I want as many people to experience the work as possible to come into the program. I also have a lower ticket business model. Like I'm not trying to fill up my one-to-one coaching practice, which is a lower volume of people. So a few things to be thinking about for everyone here, not just Emily, is are you doing a low ticket business or a high ticket business or a mix of both? If you're higher ticket, you can usually charge for more things, that lower ticket price versus free, just because you don't need a larger volume of people to be in this earlier stage relationship with before you transition them into a higher ticket thing. But for myself, I still do most of my stuff for free unless I'm trying to run ads to them because there's this thing in the ad space. Some people, you do not have to run ads by any means. I've just been running ads for so many years and think that they're super fun and convenient if you don't want to be just relying on organic. So there's a thing in the ad space called self-liquidating offers. There's a bunch of different names for it, but the idea when I first learned it of you can run ads to something, and if it is a lower price thing, your ads are essentially paying for themselves. So like if you're spending $25 a day to run an ad and you get one person to purchase your $25 thing every day, then the ads are paying for themselves. I mean, of course we want to be profiting off of ads, but that like first stage of success of having ads pay for themselves before they even become profitable, or even if you just stay there and you're like, well, if I'm paying $1,000 a day and I'm making $1,000 a day and I'm reaching so many more people and I'm like adding to the pot of people who are interacting with my work, it's a huge win. So probably for where you're at, you're going to be leaning mostly into free offers because you have a membership and because you don't have that large of a following or an audience yet, and you want more and more people to interact with your work. If you want to have something that people can purchase, it's essentially like you want something where people have a little bit of skin in the game, right? Like you could do that $5 to $15 thing because people are more likely to actually go through the meditation or the course or whatever. If they have some skin in the game, they do pay for it in some way. So I know most of my answers aren't like just do this, don't do that. I like to give the full range, especially since we have quite a few people in the room. Okay, next question came in from Christine, and it's on branding. And you said, I love that you have a carousel of your values pinned on your Instagram. Can you walk us through your process of defining and sharing your values as well as why you decided to do this? Okay, defining and sharing my values came, and I think this is the case for a lot of people where my values kind of slapped me in the face. And I think this is actually really important to talk about, where especially you're most likely a really big-hearted person. You care about so many things, especially if you look on social media with all of the many fucked up things happening, especially if you're in the US right now and all around the world, where there's a million causes that are very urgent. There's a million causes that tug at your heartstrings. But for me, and for a lot of people that I work closely with, if you can actually decide what your lane is, like these are the things that I'm responsible for, these are the things that I want to channel my potent energy into, you're actually going to make bigger change in the world versus just diluting your power by being like, well, I care about homelessness and single mothers and about this specific endangered animal and what's happening in Palestine. And there's a gazillion different causes. And if you can actually identify the ones that like you would actually lay your life down for, or like one that matters more to you as an individual than others, you can usually have more change, like fund more change, create more change with your time, money, and energy. So for me, those things are climate mitigation and reforestation and land back to the Hawaiian people, which is where I live on Maui. Those are the things where if I have to choose between one or the other, that's where my time, money, and energy is going towards, because those are the things that like light my soul on fire. I think this is really important for people to really get, because all of us will have different things. All of us will have different things where if you had to choose one or three that were the number one things that you wanted to put your time, money, and energy towards, more stuff will get done for that. So for me, just tuning into myself, those are the things for me. And having to do with that actual carousel post that I have pinned on my Instagram, that was because I was going through a really big visibility edge in my own business. This was back in 2024, where I was getting significantly more visibility and my business was exploding in a few ways, like positive explosions. And it felt really weird, again, with all the shit happening in the world, being like, well, my business is doing extremely well. And I have a lot to teach on this subject, even more to teach on this subject. And also, I want to acknowledge all of the shit that's happening in the world, you know? So for myself with that growth edge, it's like, well, my business is doing extremely well. And the world is in a terrible place with for X, Y, and Z. So I wanted to be really clear of this is how I use my time and energy. If you're supporting my business, if you're coming into my business ecosystem, some of the money that you spend within my ecosystem goes here. So for me, it allowed me, it kind of gave me this relaxation as a sensitive person to be able to actually be more visible and talk more about the success in my business, because it felt like if anyone was like, well, blah, 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 or like there was hate on the internet, even though there wasn't any, but I was like worried about hate on the internet, that I could be like, well, here's my values, here's what my business is supporting if you want to learn more about it. It made it for like this easy place to point people to. So everyone's going to have different ones, and it's a really great process, especially if you're something we talk a lot about in the regenerative business ecosystem is this pathway towards radical riches. Because I think everyone's business should have this intention of like, as you start growing and growing in your profit and in your wealth, it should be funding real change in the world. Like, of course, we want to have a lovely lifestyle. Of course, you want to have a spacious calendar. Of course, you want to be helping your clients. But like, also with an online business with such a low overhead, like you have a lot of extra money once you start scaling into certain stages of business. So starting early, being really clear where you want to now and then be channeling money into, funneling money into this in-person change, like the better. Okay. So Nina said, I'm having resistance to implementing and taking action. Is there an energetic ritual we can do? Okay, so when I first got into, because I like got into the new age realm when I was like 19 with like veganism and meditation and stuff, but I didn't actually get into like occult style spell work and magic until I was like early 20s. So and what really tipped me into that was planetary magic. So working with planetary deities, which is, in my opinion, one of the most human things that we can do. If you look back on old civilizations, old ancient civilizations, every single one of them have some sort of relationship with the planets and the stars. And there's meaning around it, there's mythology around it, and there's also like shamanic activities that you can be connecting to. So I see planetary magic as one of the most human, like, and earth magic, because like interacting with the earth. But with that, the thing that popped into my head was, and there's a million ways you can jump into action, but the first one that came to mind for me, for you, Nina, do some planetary magic with Mars, which is all around action and movement. And especially if there's this freeze state, it can actually put you into action. If there's resistance to implementing, it's often like that fawn freeze response. So Mars can actually help you into like this fight or moving forward action taking thing. So I have a, let's see if I can find, I have a blog series on my website on planetary magic and different business rituals you can do around that. but Mars is amazing. I have a really strong Mars placement, so I have a deep love for Mars, even though some people are afraid of it. So there's a ritual in there, but even just, okay, in general for planetary magic, and you'll see that in the blog series, you identifying the day of the week associated with that planet. So there's 7 days of the week, there's seven inner planets that it's traditional with working with planetary magic. Mars's day is Tuesday. So today is Mars Day. There's free apps for determining the planetary hour every day. It goes through the different planets. So I would like on Mars Day, on during Mars hour, and you can just Google that too. There's like what planetary hour calculator, it'll pop up, and create an actual altar for Mars. And every Tuesday, start creating a relationship with Mars, this action taker energy. And for anyone who wants to go down the planetary magic route, a great practice, just like with any relationship, and that's all we're doing with planetary magic, we're forming a deep relationship with these planetary deities. You start doing things that planet likes. So with Mars, you can start with, like, I don't know, watching action films, or try that CrossFit class. Or what are things that Mars would actually be into? Working with fire and reading about the art of war. I don't know what other classic war themed things there are. Another piece of this that I wanted to mention that around was, oftentimes for myself, if you're neurodivergent in any way, if you're not having exercise, physical exercise as a weekly, if not daily practice, then you're fighting this uphill battle. I have ADHD. Most people I talk to with ADHD, and I think that like all of us can lean in the ADHD tendencies with our interactions with social media and stuff. It kind of like triggers that sort of activity in our brains. But if you're not doing physical activity, where you can actually process your emotions and get your blood flowing, it's natural to stop, to numb, to freeze. So like I just wanted to throw that in there too. But try that planetary magic ritual. If you don't see it, we'll upload the chat when we upload this recording, or you can just literally Google Dirty Alchemy planetary magic Mars and it will pop up when you search it. Okay, Nikki asks, how do we get out of our own way to stop creating and start sharing selling? I feel like I'm hiding behind it's not ready instead of movement. Thank you. Okay. I mean, a lot of different ways to do that, but I think there is this common dynamic for creative people, especially if you have clients that you're working with or programs that you have. There's this tendency to want to keep adding to the program, changing the program, doing more things with your clients, doing more things with your program, because there's like a safety element to it. But then you're just pouring all of your creative energy into this thing instead of getting people into the thing. So I would do mindset work around this of digging into like, what am I afraid of when it comes to visibility, when it comes to sharing? A lot of people have a really negative connotation with selling. They're afraid of what people will think of them if they sell stuff on the internet. They're afraid that they're going to be this like icky bro marketer if they sell things. Where if you can actually, and there's a million ways to do mindset work. A lot of people find that tapping the EFT tapping points while talking to yourself. I like to go on walks and talk to myself aloud so it gets out of my head, but also just with a journal, like writing stuff out and actually going into and getting it out of your head. Why don't I want to sell? Like truly, why don't I want to sell? What do I think of people who sell? What am I afraid of people thinking about me if I'm selling on the internet? Am I afraid that no one's going to buy and then I'll actually be a failure? Am I like, so start going through what could the resistance be? A good prompt for this. What is the prompt let's see if I can pull it out of my head. I'm afraid to succeed at this because. So I'm afraid of people joining my program or whatever your offer is because, and try and list out 25 things. And as you start getting closer to 25, they'll become more outlandish, but sometimes more true. Because on the other side of this, it could be you're not actually time blocking in a way that's useful for you. You haven't created some fun habits and rituals that you can lean on. One of my favorite writing habits has lately, because I was resisting working on my second book, even though I love writing. I love the process of writing. I love the whole exploration of it. And I was literally like not writing at all. And it was like I just needed to habit stack. So for me, it was I'm not allowed to start drinking my first cup of coffee until I start writing. So like I'd prepare my coffee and sit down and have my like physical 15-minute kitchen timer, and I would start writing. And it like that was all I needed. I was like I needed to pair it with an activity that I liked and only make myself have to do it for 15 minutes. So like what are ways to I mean, of course, actually explore what your resistance is, but is it just as simple as, oh, I just need to make time for this every day? Oh, I just need to like write that one post every single day, and my non-negotiable is one post a day around it. Okay. So let me give me more context because we can dig deeper into that, but I just didn't have that much context, so I went in a few different directions. Shanti, how do you feel about sharing personal, seemingly unrelated hobbies to your page that is mostly business? Distraction to the mission, or does it contribute to humanizing myself and making myself relatable? Specifically, I'm a medicine facilitator. That is 90% of what my platforms show. But I recently started sharing my love of pole dance, and I'm just not sure if it's too jarring, carries too much stigma, unrelated to be cohesive on my page. Maybe I should make another profile for my dance. I think that the more human stuff you can share, the more of a cult following you can create. And I know there's like people have a negative connotation to having a cult following, but what I mean by that is when you actually show other parts of yourself and bring those forward into your business, it makes you and your work less of a commodity. Which makes it so that people, because people can actually have more intimate relationship with you and the work by you sharing other aspects of yourself. And absolutely, you sharing about pole dance will turn people off, but not the people who are like most in tune with you as a person. So I do think that this is a personal preference thing. You don't have to share all of your life on social media. You can absolutely keep lots of you or most of you private from the internet and just have like, okay, this is for my me in person and this is what I share on the internet. That's totally fine. You will not be unsuccessful. But for people who find it like you're actually pulled towards the idea of this and you want to be sharing other aspects of yourself, this is where you see, like, if you can think of people who you love on the internet, like you're like, oh, I love this person and I love their work and I've been following them for years. Usually they share personal stuff about themselves. It's almost like checking in with a friend of like, oh, what are they up to? And like, oh, I'm like so curious how if their dog is done being sick. And like, you have no actual real relationship with them, but your people start having connections with you and your business. So if you're attracted to it, know that absolutely people will be turned off by stuff like pole dancing. That's not a bad thing. What is the famous quote? If you're trying to make stuff for everyone, then you're making stuff for no one, right? So you actually making something polarizing will make it so that people can have deep relationships with you, will remember you, and you become less of a commodity. Okay, Bonnie, any suggestions for neurospicy folks who pack too much info into their content slash copy and also bury the lead? Context: my brain takes a simple idea and goes in a million directions. By the time I've wrangled it into a post, video, whatever, the idea has lost its vibrancy and I'm tired and over it. For this reason, I've 1,000 drafts of great ideas that never see the light of day. First of all, just publish the draft. I think that even if you're sick of it, but the option is don't post it or post it. That's my first thing. Just even if you're tired of it and over it, post the draft because you consistently posting work that you don't actually think is perfect over time is way better than you not posting anything for weeks or months. In terms of like your building relationship with people, actually being able to get clients and actually being able to fill your programs. But to actually ask your question, like if you write something, this is something that I do too, because I'm a really wordy writer and I usually just post the wordy thing because it's more effort to edit it to just post it. But if you want to, like common practices, if you write the thing, you identify, okay, this is actually three different points. So I'm going to take this apart and make it into three different posts. So if you can say, I'm only teaching one thing in this post or one thing in this blog, and it's okay if it's shorter, people are more likely to read it if it's shorter. And like, lucky me, now I have three different posts to post instead of one. That's how I would think of it. But again, if the option is don't post it and leave it as a draft versus post it, just post it. Okay, Pauline, do you have any rituals, meditations, or energetics you use for when you're about to build something new? I keep making the time, then can't seem to start, even though I'm super excited about it, planning it and starting a new podcast soon. Pauline, I think you're the Pauline who is in regenerative business ecosystem. Let me know if you're not. But assuming you are, do the meditation that is in Drill Worthy Offers. That is a really good one for actually like taking the essence of an offer and putting it into it. I also love the for everyone. I have Meet the Soul of Your Business meditation. That's really good. There's a newer version of that in Drill Worthy Offers as well. That's probably the easiest thing to start. But I mean, another fun practice that you can play around with is can you actually create best case scenarios? Because a lot of our brains assume worst case scenarios and just go to and default to worst case scenarios. So you actually giving your brain permission to actually write out, like get out a sheet of journal and like put at the top, like, what is the best possible outcome of me launching my podcast? And just like allow your brain to like totally like feed you all of these happy ideas and visions of like, oh my gosh, it's gonna grow my business to this amount and people are gonna find me and this podcast is gonna want to interview me and then I'll be like featured on this TV show and then I'll be able to like launch a book off of this and then I'm like gonna have so much more free time. I'm able to hire a team and like, can you actually write out all the best case scenario things? Because that can be something you rely on for motivation as things get hard or you get bored or like, oh my gosh, I really have to do another podcast episode or do like that new podcast season. But then one other ritual thing with it is actually like writing out what the goal is. But if you write of like, can you encapsulate what you actually want out of this thing into a simpler sentence? So for the idea of the new podcast season, it's like 20 amazing podcast episodes that flow out of me fluidly and have their own legs that reach tens of thousands of people. Like, like what is the dream scenario? And then do like a little ritual around this. And I would probably lean into whatever element you are most attracted to so that you could use fire, water, air, earth, or I mean, play with all the elements and make a ritual with that. Okay, so Nikki says, okay, so follow up from the one before. I'm most afraid this will actually fail and was just something fun I liked and no one else does. I also think selling is icky, even though my business mind know that is silly. Okay, you actually working through this idea of selling is icky and like you're allowed to sell even if it feels icky, but you over time consciously working on how is selling actually a service. Can I find examples of people who are selling stuff on the internet that I don't think feels icky? Is there something that I bought recently that I'm so, whether it was from posts on social media or going to a store, was there something that I posted recently that I'm so grateful I purchased? This is also really fun to think about if you have a book. It works really well with books, but if you can think of your favorite book that you've recommended for other people to read, and you can feel the energy of like, oh my gosh, like you have to read this book. Like, let me buy it for you. I love this book so much. Let me buy it for you. I'm going to send it to you because you have to read it. That's the energy that you want to be able to bring to what you're selling in your own business. And if you realize that selling in that way for that thing that you absolutely believe will serve the person and they'll absolutely love, bringing that's still selling. And it's not icky, it's just your belief around the actual book or slash your offer that needs some alchemy around. Okay, Charlotte asked, regenerative business fused with energetics is so fascinating and aligned to me as I'm developing my first business. Simply put, what is your best advice for starting from scratch to avoid the perfectionism freeze, the overwhelm of info, and create something that is powerful, aligned, and magnetic from day one? How do I plant the best seed? So, with phase one and phase two of business, how I define them, the quickest way to figure out what you actually want to be planting is by getting a bunch of experience. And a lot of people skip this. They're unwilling to actually develop their craft. Okay, so if you have no experience in business at all, but you're like, I know I want to have a business. There's two phases I think about. With phase one, it's really this dreaming and planning stage. If you have a clear idea of where you want to be in 10 years or like whispers of where you want to be in 10 years, you can start actually making steps in that direction. What a lot of people fail at is then they'll launch a business from that stage instead of actually going and getting experience. So that can look like when I first got into business, it was probably like 5 years of me working behind the scenes for other people's online businesses just because I knew that I wanted to learn online marketing because I wanted to own a business someday. So I was a freelancer for many years, not charging that much. And I was in that stage for way too long. Undoubtedly, I was in that stage for way too long. But when I look back, I'm so grateful that I went through all of that because the amount of hours that I put into learning a craft, for me, it was online marketing for like well over 10,000 hours behind the scenes of successful online businesses. it made it so that when I was actually creating offers and working with people in a larger capacity, I was already good at it. Where a lot of people want to jump right into a business and it to be a success from day one, but not actually put in that much work to getting good at whatever that thing is. For services, that is actually getting good at a craft. If you want to be selling books or digital products, you actually working with people in some way to learn a modality or develop a step-by-step process or something that people can go through and actually get good at it, like that is such a necessary step that most people aren't willing to take. This is where I think the our modern society not having an apprenticeship culture, it actually fucks people over. Like you go to college instead of becoming an apprentice of something and moving in a direction that way. So if you have an inkling of what you want to be working people with, and you're like, I don't know the exact seed I want to plant, but I know I want to plant this general seed, go and work with someone or learn from someone who is in that general area, because this is where like people are, they're like, I don't know what my niche should be. I don't know what my niche should be. My answer is always go work with 10, 20, 100 people because your niche will get clear. If you like, I don't know if I want to work with men or women, go work with men or women. And maybe it doesn't matter either way. Maybe like you like working with all of them, but it usually becomes really clear of like, I like working with this kind of person. I like them to be at this stage of life. I like when they've already done the X, Y, and Z, or maybe they're just at the beginning of the journey. And I don't like working with people who are too advanced. Like it just becomes clear as you actually work with people. So sometimes that means charging nothing for a while. I mean, or charging $25 a session for a while just to get your reps and sets in. That is how you get clear on what you actually like. And you can, most of us think that we can think our way through that. You really can't. You have to experience it, and that the through the experience it becomes incredibly clear. Okay, Emily asked, I want to add a form to collect info from people who are interested in working with me one-to-one. Right now, if they're interested in one-to-one, they have to book a call with me. I think this would be a good step to capture interest and get them excited about the offer. What are some of the basic things you recommend we include in this form? For me, I'm speaking to parents who are typically pretty busy. That's one of the reasons why they want to revillage. So I'd like to keep the form simple but impactful. Okay, for this purpose, if you can invite them to vision things, I think this would be really cool because you said that you want them to get excited about the offer, so excited about working with you. You actually inviting them to dream up their best case scenario or dream up like what would you really love the revillaging experience to look like. So something involving visioning. I also really, when it comes to those sorts of forms, I really like to ask why they want to work with you specifically. It really helps you understand why they're actually booking the call. It also helps people kind of get out of this commodity mindset of like, I'm just like talking with X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, why do they want to come on a call with Emily specifically? Was it because they listened to a podcast or they read one of this specific post or like they love your story about blah, blah, blah? That's really great. And then I would be thinking about for you is like, what do you need to know to help you prepare for the call? And also, what would make an ideal client for you? Again, if you know, like I know I like working with people who live in rural settings and they have at least one child. Like what are the things that you could ask them about to kind of get an idea of do they fit the bill of someone that you know you really want to work with? Okay, so Alexandra asks, I'm in a deep winter phase, things metaphorically dying with my business, identity shifting, income low, lots of freeze, and selling feels emotionally complicated given what's happening in the world. I live in Minneapolis. I know I want to do a big spring launch and build a backend like membership, but I'm overwhelmed by what to focus on right now and what kind of support I actually need. I know I can't do this alone. How do I discern the right next steps and the right kind of help in a season that feels like death before rebirth without forcing momentum or bypassing what's real? I mean, let me just affirm and reflect back to you first that sometimes you need to go in all in on the death cycle, the grief, the emotion before things become clear. And often, if we're trying to jump out of that phase, that's when you kind of just stick in this, like, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, because you need to actually go deep into that, the grieving and the death cycle that's actually here. So spring, you have plenty of time before spring. Can you give yourself full permission to do at least 1 to 2 weeks of like full grieving and like do some ritual around it, do some movement around it? And especially in this void space of winter, again, a lot of people are so uncomfortable with death cycles, or so uncomfortable with the darkness that come with it, the lack of clarity that comes with this. But if you can actually give yourself permission, just do things that you love. Like, can you spend lots of time doing yoga or like meditating or reading lovely novels or spending time in nature? Can you go in, all in on that and feeling all of the emotions? Often that will usher in the next phase quicker than actually resisting it. I don't think you're actually doing that, but I just wanted to name it. Other good things in winter phases are preparing and planning. So if you can't actually do anything right now, can you explore what might be needed of you in the spring season? So what structure do you actually need? Or you could actually start creating the structure of the membership. You can be thinking about onboarding materials. Again, if you, assuming you're actually going to launch a membership, there's usually onboarding involved, or automated emails you want to have, or videos you want to have created, a way to take payment, or even before that, if all of that feels too actiony right now, and that can come in a month or two, you can be thinking about who do you want to work with and what the messaging is. So if you're in the regenerative business ecosystem, a great one for this is world-changing money-making copywriting. That process is a pretty magical process. So I think it aligns with the winter phase, and it will really bring you into the storytelling and the messaging involved with a new offer. Because with new offers, you often need a new, not a spin, but like specific messaging that goes really well with it. So that's what I would be doing, is like, how can you actually plan for this? And also it's okay if you're going fully into experiencing winter. Your business doesn't need to die if you're in a winter phase. It can just be like this fallow stage. Okay, and Nell, you sent in a question. I know you're on live with us. You said the order of next steps to take to easily launch a retreat 4-1 through 4-6. So January, February, March, April is 4. Into a course, into another retreat, plus high level one-to-one coaching. I created healing circles and a retreat called B Camp, Inner Shadow Pleasure Integration for Systemic Change Workers, change work, systemic change work for bitches. Okay. And now I have been hired for the third year in a row to hold B Camp for medical students. Oh, that's so cool. I have permission to expand the invite beyond the org and take payments in addition to my facilitator fee. So my thought is to do a launch for that and then have that lead into a group container for additional work, and then B Camp #2 in September. I also want to offer one-to-one. I literally do not know where to begin. Have you launched before? I mean, I'm assuming if you have run this before, you've launched before. So I'm glad you're on live, because when I was reading this earlier, I like wrote down questions like, do you have an audience already? Have you been nurturing them? Have you been talking to people? Because when it comes with a launch, and this is for everyone, it's really easy to launch quickly if you have been in continual communication with your people. If you are posting or emailing or creating value or videos or podcasts, if you never ghost people, then you don't actually have to like warm people up. It's like, no, you're just in communication. So opening doors to a program isn't this like shocking out of nowhere thing that we have to like climb up a mountain and build up a bunch of momentum towards. But if you don't, if you're like starting from scratch, or you don't have an audience, or you've ghosted people for winter, or you were talking about a completely different topic, there needs to be some sort of pre-launch time period. It doesn't sound like that applies to you, Anel, because it sounds like you holding B Camp in and of itself is kind of like the pre-launch, because you're essentially upselling people off of it. It's like they're working with you in this capacity, and then you're moving into the other one. So with a nurtured audience, things can move quickly, but general flow for launches is there's that pre-launch, which is longer if you're having to build an audience or like nurture them or warm them up. So that could be 1 month long or 3 months long, depending on how much runway you want to be building. Usually there's some sort of launch event. So there's some free way or low priced way, but generally free way for people to experience you and your work. That could be with a PDF. That could be with a live call. That could be with like what I did earlier this month with Money on Repeat, where it was like a 5-day pop-up event. It could be more traditional, would be like a webinar. So what is some sort of free thing that people can experience you and your work and get a feel for your ethos and get a more tangible sense of if you're the right person for them. And maybe in this example, and now this B Camp is that launch event because they are experiencing you. And then after a launch event, there's usually an open enrollment. So this is a period of between 5 and 21 days where you actually have enrollment open for whatever you're promoting. And that usually depends again on how quickly you can move, how much support you have, and how the price of the actual program. So I know you're here. So I want to, okay, I see you following up in here. He said, no audience to speak of. Even if we have done B Camp before, I've never launched before. I did healing circles at my clinic as a nurse and then at a conference and then got hired by an organization. So it's been word of mouth through the medical folks. So it sounds like I need a pre launch, a free something folks can experience. Yes, in general, I think that will make the launch. You use the word launch. So I'm like, I'm using it too, but I don't know. Some people hate the word launch. You might not need to do it. Again, if you have this organization that you're doing stuff for and like you don't personally have an audience, but you're like, I call this visibility channel other people's people. You've essentially always used other people's people as a way of creating trust. And it's just a great way to actually create visibility. But if you want to be doing that, I would be talking publicly, usually on social media, or if you have an email list, or write a blog or do YouTube videos. There's some way of you're publicly sharing about the topic you're going to be doing on leading up to when you're actually promoting the thing. Kimberly says, we're seeking feedback on creating a culture of client participation in our group coaching sessions. Do you have any guidance for how to solicit questions in advance in a way that garners responses, or creating a culture of arriving at group coaching hungry and prepared to ask questions? We'd actually love to hear from this room about what prompts them to share vulnerably and engage in group coaching, since we're so impressed by this community's participation. So this would be Regenerative Business Ecosystem, and are seeking to shift our own sessions towards being more client-led and less reliant on us hand-holding. And you all secondary question was, should we split our 26 clients into 2 Zoom rooms where we each coach 13 folks to increase intimacy? So anyone who's on live, I'd love for you guys to weigh in of when you are in small group programs, because and I think like larger group programs, because I know we're a bit bigger within Regenerative Business Ecosystem. But Kimberly, she has a small group program. For context, just because I know her, she and her partner coach restaurant owners and restaurant teams. So they're in the food industry space. And she has a small group program. So if you guys are in any small group programs or within the regenerative business ecosystem or wherever online, what actually prompts you? Like, if does the leader prompt you to ask certain questions, or are there certain things that make you feel more comfortable sharing? Let us know in the chat so you can also help Kimberly. Eileen says, I think that knowing the theme ahead of time and having a few prompt questions to think about before coming to calls to help be ready with questions, but I'm not a great person to ask as I'm pretty keen to speak up usually. Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Eileen. And then a few things from my end. I think that with smaller groups, some things I've worked really well because often with smaller groups, just because there's less time on calls, I think that there's usually louder people that will start talking, and they'll be like the first one to raise their hand with a problem or what they're thinking about. But I'm wondering if like you just in this round of your group, you just don't have that. Because I find that, okay, the louder people, they'll usually go first, and then the people who are quieter, they don't like to be to start the conversation, they'll come on later in on the calls. Things I've seen work in other containers is I was in a mastermind years ago that the leader would give a 15-minute little talk at the beginning and then open up the space. And the space was like you could bring anything to the calls, but there was something about having the little 15-minute talk about whatever he was talking about, or like a little mini lesson he was teaching that almost helped people come up with things to talk about because it like became this talking point and then it like turned into other things. One thing I don't know if it actually worked. I mean, everyone always asks questions in mine, so I haven't personally had this problem, but I do always say in the emails ahead of time, like, this is your time. Like, this time is for you. So come with a question ahead of time. Ian says, for me, prompts open the space to share, and getting direct feedback, not just generalized sharing, makes me feel like sharing. I love that. Okay, so Kimberly, Christine, what she's saying is that when there is a direct prompt, or like today we're talking about hiring, or today we're talking about this topic, bring your questions around that thing. So a theme of some sort actually helps her come up with better questions. And I'm wondering, like, if you guys do calls every other week for 6 months, can you think of that many themes for each of the calls that could actually help people come up with things? For me, I also send out for RBE. What I love doing, this was new for this group, because in past mastermind, I would just like open up the space of like, okay, who wants to go first? Raise your hand. What I've liked doing with this group is sending out a form and like attaching it to the little calendar event of, I start with questions that are sent in ahead of time because I prefer it. I prefer being able to read the questions and think about it. And I'm like, oh, I know I have this resource. I don't have to like look up the resource while we're live on the call. So by me prioritizing the questions that are sent in ahead of time, I'm like subtly suggesting put in your questions ahead of time. And of course, we like answer all the questions live on the calls, but that's one way I subtly do that. And I mean, just worried that if you bust the group into two different Zoom rooms where you have 13 folks in each, 13 folks is still a lot of people. It's almost like, do you want to do four different breakout rooms in there instead, where you have like a group of like 6 or 7 people? So there is more time to talk, and the more quiet people have time to talk. Eileen says, in my own group program, I start with a little teaching slash talk and then some prompts that are related to get the ideas and questions flowing. It works well in my space. I love that. It's a great idea. Okay. Let us know what you end up going with, Kimberly. Mohini says, how the heck to decide? There's so many options and I get confused and overwhelmed. Others say more businessy X, Y, and Z. You say more nature X, Y, Z. I need a blend. Example, I have been focused on one-to-one and know I need smaller offers. Others say just focus on selling one offer. Okay, so what I say is there's a million and one ways to do business, and there's a million and one ways to market business. And people have extreme success selling one offer. People have extreme success having 20 different mini offers. People have extreme success having a product suite that ranges from $5 to $10,000. There's not one way to do business. And instead of seeing that as overwhelming, can you actually go into yourself and be like, oh my God, look at all these options out here? Okay, no, can you actually like come into yourself and be like, what would be my ideal? And obviously, as business progresses, as you progress in your own business, in your own expertise, your business model will change, or like your offer suite will change. So what you're deciding on today is different than like where you're building towards over time. Let me say that. So what I would be thinking about, oh, and you said you're tired of experimenting. Okay, so if you're tired of experimenting, it sounds like you've experimented enough. What have you actually liked doing? So oftentimes people will start their businesses with one offer that is either, and I don't want to overwhelm you with a bunch of different options, but I'm gonna give options. With most people who are starting off in online business, they're usually selling higher ticket things just because you don't have much of an audience when you're just getting started. So you need to sell higher priced things in order to be able to actually cover all of your costs. So that could be done for you services, that could be coaching, that could be like working inside someone's business, that could be packages and like retainers of some sort. That's usually how people get started, unless they're jumping into low ticket offers with ads, or with like using someone else's audience, or like trying to go viral on social media. So we're like having a higher volume of things to sell lower ticket things. Now, both of those are work in different ways, because when you're selling higher ticket things, like you really are spending so much time in the delivery. You're really working to get people excellent results, and you're doing a lot of hand holding and working directly with people. On the lower ticket things, it's usually your creative focus is really on the marketing side. So it is like working on the ads, creating all the YouTube videos, create like getting good at going viral on whatever. So if you can actually be thinking about, how do I want to spend my time in my business? Do I like marketing and doing a bunch of stuff on social media? Or like, do I want to learn ads? Okay, then maybe the lower ticket model is what you want to be playing around with. But like, if you're like, no, I love having these deep, intimate relationship with clients, and I just want to spend all of my time with clients on calls and X, Y, and Z, then okay, maybe starting with this higher ticket model is going to be a better route for you. And this is again personal, because I know a lot of people who have extremely successful business just doing high ticket offers, and people who have extremely successful business doing just low ticket offers. I personally like having like a broader product suite, just because I don't know, I'm a Gemini rising. I get to play around and like some months I get to just talk about $25 things. And I have like, I'm able to do a bunch of ads on lower ticket things and get a bunch of people into my world. And that's so fun for me. But then I also have like these little pockets of way for people to do like private mentorship with me so that I can go a little bit deeper. But I'm also someone that is really fine with having a lot of different pots on the fire. I love having novelty. I love being able to bounce from one thing to the next. And that's not everyone. Some people want really simple businesses, and that's a beautiful thing. So I know I'm like not answering your question the way that you want to, but I really think you need to stop looking outward and start going inward of what do you want your business to look like? What would be your dream of dreams scenario? How would you be spending your time? Because that should be the guiding force towards how you actually design and structure your business. Okay. Lee says, I want advice about how to triple my income and have some profitable passive options for when I take sabbatical. Oh, how fun. I'm offering one, somatic healing slash coaching packages that involve live one-to-one and group sessions, two, employee well-being workshops and for org slash team, and three, occasional prop-up workshops. I'm not sure what I can do passively that offers the high-level support I can give. Yeah, it sounds like most of your offers really do involve you. So for you to be able to take sabbatical, you're probably going to have to go through a transition period of creating offers that are actually sellable during sabbatical and also learning how to sell those things because there is a bit of a transition period from you selling one-to-one services to me selling digital products or more scaled up products. Because when I hear sabbatical, I think you are not working. Maybe because I guess there could be a reality where like a sabbatical for some people could be just like, I'm only working 5 hours a week instead of 40. Maybe that's a sabbatical for some people. But when I see you write sabbatical, I'm thinking you are not working for like 6 to 18 months. If that's the case, you are going to need one, offers that you can actually sell without you being there, which is different than what it sounds like your entire product suite is. And then two, you might need a team if you don't want to work at all during your sabbatical. At least people to be making sure they're like responding to customer service emails and stuff like that. Let me see if you popped back in the chat with follow-ups. Lee, let me know if you want to give me any more context with that. But okay, those are my assumptions. So I'm going to continue going forward with this question with those assumptions. And then on the other side of this, you say you want to also triple your income. So to triple your income with your current product suite is, in my mind, like that's a completely different project than going on sabbatical, because going on sabbatical with your current product suite is impossible because all of your offers involve you physically in your business. So I'm like, what is your priority here? Would you rather triple your income? You'd like not to not work. Okay, so you want to triple your income and be on sabbatical. If the number one thing is I want to be on sabbatical, you're going to have to change your product suite. You're going to have to either do sell an online course. You're going to probably have to hire people to at least do customer service, if not also do marketing for you. So that will be running ads or posting on social media, probably not doing YouTube because unless you're like batch creating a bunch of videos or a bunch of podcasts before you actually go off on sabbatical. Because sabbatical is like I've supported clients in sabbatical. It requires a lot of preparation and a lot of planning if you are the face of your business. Now, if we're scooting back over to the one thing at a time, yeah, for tripling your business, I would be looking at because there's a lot of different levers when it comes to tripling income. One of them you can play with, and you can also play with all of these. Like one of them is increasing prices because some people are just underpriced for what they're actually offering. The second one is capacity and volume. Obviously, with your somatic healing coaching packages that are one-to-one, there's a capacity limit there, right? Like it's like you can only like I don't know if it's 20 clients at a time. I don't know if it's 5 clients at a time. I don't know if it's 100 clients at a time. Like what is that capacity limit? Versus workshops where you could have hundreds of people show up on it. So with the one-to-one, it's probably increasing prices while also going to your actual capacity of working with clients. For the workshops, that's going to be really leaning on the visibility lever or dial, turning the visibility dial up so you have more people actually coming into those workshops and purchasing those workshops from you. Yeah, let me know if you have any follow-ups with that. We can definitely go deeper into that. Andreina, I just finished copywriting Alchemy and it was amazeballs. I've done the avatar sheet and several other homeworks from modules. Where do you suggest I begin? It's for an offer you're developing, still unsure if it is high or low ticket. I have an audience already. Okay, since you're in copywriting alchemy, I would want to know if you've gone through the world-changing money-making copywriting thing. I think that's a really fun place to start because it really forces you to think about your client. And it sounds like you know you have the audience, you know who the client is, but you're still developing if it's high or low ticket. The second piece is you might want to play around with the drill-worthy offers stuff because you're still developing the offer. But I would just honestly start with posting stuff. I would start with world-changing money-making copywriting, go through the process and actually post it. And that could be a video or a blog or a writing, but you're going through that entire process. And then also because you're developing the offer, I would go through the drill-worthy offers piece with that. So this is another one for Kimberly. AK says, as an attendee, prompts help me focus too. And I love the groups where the leader presents 5 to 10, 15 minutes creating a context. Rarely have time to respond in advance, but when I'm sitting and present, then there is a 5 to 10 or 15-minute contextual presentation. I respond more often. Okay, so I think there's like a theme going on for you, Kimberly. Sam says, I'm a songwriter performer and having a lot of success with selling tour tickets, merch at shows, and offers online. I have a sizable audience. I have all my nurturing set up, emails, DMs, etc., and my ecosystem is definitely starting to thrive. Amazing, congrats. I also have a membership which is doing okay, 183 paid members and slowly growing, but my goal is 1,000 members, and this is the one thing that is so hard for me to sell. Do you have any ideas on how I could approach selling membership that's more fan focused rather than coaching teaching? FYI, at the moment, members get a new song demo every month, early access to new songs and videos before they're released, monthly essays, monthly group Zooms with me, and discounts on merch. My current members love it, and I've asked everyone what they actually want from me, and almost everyone said, we don't want anything, we just want to support your work. I love that, which is amazing, but it also makes it tricky to sell. I mean, first, congratulations on all your success. So excited for you. I would, if you're still on with us live, I would want to know how often are you selling it? Because sometimes people just aren't selling it that often, and that's the issue. They're just not talking about it that much. Of like, are you mentioning it once a week? Are you putting it in the bottom of your newsletters? Are you sending newsletters at all to people? Are you making, like, is it all over the place that they know where to actually get it? Yes, you're here. Okay, so how are you actually selling it right now, Sam? And then the other side of this is I would probably do an actual promotion around it. Some things that are open all the time, it's sometimes like people aren't, there's no urgency or there's no like actual activation to join at all because it's like, oh, I'll do that later. I'll do that later. So if you can figure out a way to, and this is where like when we're talking about launches, it's kind of essentially like a time-based promotion around it. So if you want to have like an expiring bonus or some like live virtual thing or like, oh, I'm shooting to get X amount of people in the membership, so if you've been thinking about supporting my work in any way, if you join before the end of February, then X, Y, or Z. There's something about a timeline that actually gets people to take action. So I would be thinking about that and doing that, I mean, probably every 2 to 3 months of how can we actually encourage people to come because there's some sort of urgent bonus or at least the side comment of like, if you've been wanting to support my work, this is how you do it. And then you responded, it's in the bottom of every newsletter, and I mention it on social 2 times a month. So I'm like, okay, can we do it more than 2 times a month? You did a promotion recently. Okay. Join and get a free CD, which went really well, but struggling to come up with more ideas. I mean, could it be, what are other things you could, I'm like, could you have a song that's literally only available for members? I'm like, oh, what are exclusive things that you could literally only get if you're a member? Can it be an MP3 or can it be, I don't know, that's because like a CD, I'm imagining you actually like shipping out the CDs. I'm like, that sounds like a lot of work. So does anyone have any other ideas they've seen work for musicians for expiring things? Because, okay, great, the promotion worked. So how do we actually do more of those promotions? Can it be every 2 to 3 months? What else can you do? I think that like this MP3 is only available for people who are in the membership at this time, that it's going away forever. I'm like, I don't want to send out like T-shirts, that's too expensive probably, depending on the price of your membership. AK says, "What about an offer that rewards them for bringing a friend?" I love that. My sister ships the CDs. I love that. A special behind the scenes with her, a special Q&A, how she started music. Love the MP3, only available now, going away forever. Yeah, and you're a songwriter. I'm not sure how, because I'm assuming that some songwriters, they're like this prolific, overflowing, like they have new songs coming out of their butt all the time. But I assume there's like a spectrum of like some songwriters are like it's only one amazing song a year, and that's the beautiful thing they're creating. So I'm like, wow, if you could create a new song like once every few months or twice a year, that's like you have to join in this 1 week period to get access to the song. I think that could be really cool. I mean, virtual concerts, it sounds like you do that anyways. So I'm not sure if it's that special. Can you try something where leaning into what they said they want to do, which is support your work, you know? Okay. Other questions. BK says Amanda Palmer has a great business model. I'm assuming, okay, I'm guessing that is a musician that I don't know. What, BK, what about their business model do you think is that, do you think that Sam could use? AK says, writing a song for a person, if that is your way. There used to be some songwriters who created songs for kids in hospitals. That was cool. Yeah, maybe that's only for annual members. An entire new song for a person. They can pay for 5 years and then they get their own song. Christine says, special exclusive performance 2 times a year, coinciding with opening membership. I love that. Yes. Okay, great. Keep the ideas coming, you guys. Margaret says, I focused on working with women with lupus for several years, and I'm branching out to another autoimmune disorder. So, when I start to discuss the new disorder, what to do with lupus followers, do I separate them out by asking them if they want to be a part of the new autoimmune newsletter? Are you going to keep, Margaret, are you going to keep talking about lupus? Are you going 100% shift to this other autoimmune disorder? Because there's a few ways to go about this. If you're going to be cycling between different ones, I would probably do and this will depend on what email service provider you have, but you can send an email that's like essentially an announcement of I'm now working with blah, blah, blah. If you would like to stay in communication, then with this other autoimmune disorder or like more general autoimmune disorders, then click this link and I'll make sure you're added. If not, you continue forward. Another thing is you can, again, this will like it'll depend on what email service provider you have, but you can Google this with your whatever email service provider you have. At the bottom of the email, you can say like if you opted in for this email list to only get lupus content, then click here and I'll make sure you only get content about or emails about lupus. So it's instead of like unsubscribing, because there's always that unsubscribe at the bottom of an email, you can actually create a custom unsubscribe link so that they're like, no, I only want emails about lupus. Don't send me stuff about other autoimmune disease. That would probably, I mean, that would be the most appropriate for email standards, but I also have very successful clients and friends who don't. They like talk about all sorts of things, and people on their email list get every single thing they send, and they're like, well, if you don't want my emails, then I'm unsubscribe. So that is an option if you don't want to deal with the tech side of it, but I think you're going to have the happiest people on your email list and you won't lose people, assuming you're not completely pivoting. If you're completely pivoting, then you have to warn the people being like, hey, I'm not talking about lupus anymore. You can unsubscribe by clicking the unsubscribe button at the bottom, but otherwise you can separate out the email list to the different branches. Okay. Jess, I can't tell if that's a question or not because there's not a Q in front of it. So let me know if that's a Q. Okay, okay. Oh, and Lee followed up that you're open to working just a little during your sabbatical. Yeah, if you're open to working just a little during your sabbatical, you're going to have to think about probably launching a more scalable digital product so you're not working one-on-one with people during your sabbatical, unless you're just charging really high prices for your one-to-one, which would be an option, and then you just have your retainer clients that are working with you for extended period of time. But you're probably going to have a more scalable offer like a digital course or a small group where you are charging higher prices or you have a higher volume of people going through and you don't need to show up as much as like having 20 clients at one time. Okay. Any other cues? Margaret says Flowdesk. Yeah, Flowdesk lets you choose between different things. And that's something you can. I've seen people do this with email nurture sequences, like right when people come in. If they opt into your newsletter, you can send an email being like, hey, why what are you like how do you I'm not using the right wording, but it's like essentially like how do you classify yourself, or like why do you join this email list? And they could let's for an example with my business, it's like, tell me a little bit about your business. Are you just getting started as one option? Are you a super established business that you're looking to scale to the next level? Are you a business owner that has no time and you like sometimes think about burning down your business because you haven't built any systems? And like, so what are like little archetypes of your people? So for you, it's like, are you here for lupus? Are you here for this other immune disorder? Are you here for all of it? And I'm not sure the exact process with Flowdesk. That's just literally a Googleable thing of like Flowdesk, how to segment my list. But with like ConvertKit, for example, which I've done a lot, is you can have these links where if they click the link, a specific link, it tags them, and then you can use that tag and only send the emails to those people. Oh yeah. If you can send a poll with Flowdesk, that'd be great. But for those who are on with us right now still, let me know what is one key takeaway you want to take from this call. Why I love doing this so much is because not only does this help with your own memory retention, they've done studies on this where if you can immediately do like have a I want to remember this type of thing and you write it out, it helps with your memory retention, but it also allows everyone else in the group to be blessed by your own brilliance of your own interpretation of what you want to remember from the call. So for everyone still on, give me one key takeaway you want to remember going forward. Jess says, be my specific weird self. Yes, please. Andreina says, just start posting. Nicole says, million ways to do business. It has to suit me. It does. I think that like if you try and fit yourself into someone else's box, it's actually the biggest recipe for you wanting to burn down your business in like 12 months. Like you can keep going for maybe 1 to 2 years and then you're going to want to completely burn down your business. So like why not actually set it up in a way that you're excited to show up for work? Sam says, talk more about what I'm selling. Yes. Floor says, I want to figure out how to productize my high ticket offers. All I really want is to work one-to-one with people that like me. Oh, I love that. Christine says, practice of writing out the best possible outcomes to combat worst case scenario fears. Yes, yes. Okay. I mean, follow-up takeaway. Everyone write one, here, I'll write this out. One best case scenario of it working out. Give us one thing. Give us one best case scenario. Zillions of dollars, says Sam. I love it. Nicole says my best case scenario, my online and in-person programs fill with ease. Yes. AK says getting core craft experience with lots of clients and creating digital products are kind of two different worlds in a sense and to approach differently. Interesting. Margaret says my new idea brings 25,000 per month. Jill says I look across my bank accounts and realize I never have to work again, like it really happened. Sam says positively impacting millions of people. Flora says steady income that doesn't persistently rely on my life force. A team I trust that believes in my work ethic. Yes, I love it. Okay, a couple questions came in. AK says, Re singer wanting more fan members. What do you think about her increasing becoming a regular podcast guest of various podcasters as a way to drum up interest and new fans via other people's people? Yeah, I mean, just more visibility. The thing is, she said that she has a good following. The issue is more the conversion. So what you're suggesting is more visibility, which of course, like more that would be like zone 4 activity if we're talking about the regenerative business zone. So more eyes in your work could absolutely lead to more people who want to be in the membership. But what I was hearing from her, it's like she has a large audience. It's more the transition from zone 3 to zone 1, right? It's like, okay, people are interested. Zone 3 to zone 1, where like they're interested, they know about her, but they're not actually purchasing. So we want to be thinking about that pathway from one to the other. But yes, absolutely, that would work too. Jesse, Susanna, favorite list building tips between launches. It depends on what channel you are using for visibility. Because I think email list The stats always show that your email list is the best channel when it comes to converting people. And I know like converting is such a weird, icky word, but your email list, it's a better indicator of whether you are gonna like be successful in a launch or in a promotion than your like social media following. And I've seen that for so many years. It's still true today. So, for example, let's kind of go through some options. If you are someone who uses social media as a visibility channel, let's say you use Instagram, you could decide that one post a week or multiple stories a week, you're going to encourage people to come on your email list. This, of course, requires you having some sort of freebie opt in where people actually want to give you their information for it. So that would be step one, right? Is like create a free, whatever, an opt-in freebie that people are actually interested in. Bonus points if you think of an opt-in freebie that directly aligns with whatever you're going to be launching next. So if you have one core offer, okay, of course you're thinking of opt-in freebies that are related to that thing, and you can create multiple ones that relate to that thing. But if you, for example, have four different courses and you cycle through them a year, you want to be building your email list with people directly related to that offer between them. So, for example, if I was going to launch my copywriting course in March, then I'm not going to try and promote my funnel building freebie because that's a completely different course of mine. I want to promote my copywriting relevant opt in freebies because that's the next launch I'm doing, for example. So, knowing what the opt in freebie is, making something and like checking the metrics of like, have I named it in a way that people actually want to sign up for this? Am I talking about it in a way that people actually want? Okay, so that's one area. Then, okay, if we're on Instagram, I'm going to create a rhythm of once a week, I'm promoting my opt in freebie. Okay, every Monday or whatever day, I'm going to be promoting, and that's just going to become a part of the rhythm. But if you're doing a podcast, for example, if podcasting is your visibility channel, of course, of choice, it could be I create a 15 to 30-second commercial that I splice into all of my podcast episodes that encourage people to go to X, Y, and Z URL or go to the show notes to get that opt in freebie. If it's YouTube, you can be creating YouTube videos specifically aligned with that end up promoting your opt in freebie. So it depends on what the visibility channel is that you lean into. If you tell me which one you use and you're regularly on, we can go a little deeper with that. Okay. Yes, yes. Suzanne says, content bank versus visibility platform. Could it both be on YouTube? Yes. And do I really have to cross post shorts on TikTok like several people have told me? I don't have a TikTok. No, you don't. Okay, so you're referring to a topic we talk about within peak visibility, which is when it comes to visibility, a lot of people miss that, or like the way that I like to do visibility is we don't want to just talk to those people who are strangers. You want to actually allow them to quickly fall in love with you because you're amazing and your work is incredible. So, value banks, you said content bank, I like to call them value banks, is a way that people can publicly spend a lot of time with you where you're not physically there. So, great examples of value banks are like podcasts. The stats around podcasts are actually really incredible. I'm not saying to start a podcast, but I have to share stats when I find them because I think they're really cool. Where if they say like it's like 80% of people who find a podcast they like will immediately binge the podcast, like listen to every single one of the episodes. So it's like if you want to go from like I don't know you at all to like oh we are intimately in a relationship, like that's a really great. And you see this with YouTube too. So what is a way for that people without a gate, there's no gatekeeping, they don't have to pay you, they don't have to give you an email address, they can experience your work, and that's where like this value bank comes in. They can go from I don't know you at all to like I love you and I want to tell all my friends about it really quickly. There's stats around that Google came out with last year. I think it's people need to watch 6 to 7 hours of videos of you, like on average 6 to 7 hours of videos. I feel like it'll work the same with podcasts. So like experience 6 to 7 hours of your work before they're ready to like purchase from you, from like I don't know you to like I'm ready to pay you because I trust you and I know you now. So value banks, these ways of publicly putting your teachings that people can actually binge, is just like Just a smart thing to plan for, right? They can be on different platforms or they could be on the same platform. That's what you're talking about, Suzanne. But you could have like, I find strangers to my work by going viral on TikTok. But then my value bank lives on YouTube. So I'm like continually directing people from TikTok to YouTube, for example. But they can be in the same spot. So, Suzanne, with YouTube, you just want to think about, if I just had my value bank on YouTube, I'd be treating YouTube a different way than if it's my value bank and my visibility channel. I hope I'm making sense, but I'm like, if I'm just having my value bank on YouTube, I'm just like going there and I'm like having conversations with people and I'm talking about different topics because I'm directing them from a different platform over to there. But if I want YouTube to also be the place where people find me, I'm then going to be thinking about SEO, right? I'm going to be like actually looking, okay, what are the keywords I can use? How do I put the right description on here? How do I like make sure the thumbnail's perfect so that it like shows up? So like I used kind of start playing the algorithm game if you're also thinking of it as your visibility channel. Nothing wrong with it either way. I'm just like, I'm kind of just showing you how to think about it differently. No, you do not need to cross post shorts onto TikTok. Would it help you? Maybe. Or it could just be like a waste of your time. So like, no, you don't have to, but you have to think about YouTube as more than just the value bank. You want to play the YouTube game. So yes, do the shorts on YouTube, but you don't have to also post them on TikTok. Yes, I'm so excited for me to be done writing Radical Riches. It's going to be so good. Alexandra, question, clarification. Issues being perceived like nervous system shutdown because of being perceived or visible online in other spheres. Okay, let me find your original questions with that perspective. Number one tip for nervous system shutdown by being visible or perceived online. I mean, I'm not going to answer with number one tip. I'm going to give you lots of options. One thing to think about is, do you have an intimate relationship with your nervous system and techniques, right? Because you're talking about you're having nervous system shut down. There are very simple tools that you can continually be using for that. Are you doing daily hypnosis so that you are like bringing down your baseline stress levels on a regular basis? There's like stuff like those like butterfly, what are they called? It's like butterfly breathing where you're tap or bilateral stimulation type stuff. Do you have a community of people where when you're freaked out and worried about that stuff, you can actually go and talk to them? This can be a virtual or in-person community where I find that a lot of people who are really afraid to post online, if they have a place where they can actually be like, I'm so fucking afraid to post this thing online, but they have people where they can actually express that and they can be like, well, I'll love you either way, or like you can do it. Like even if there's haters, there's this cozier space that helps a lot. So do you have the nervous system techniques? Do you have a community you can actually talk these things out to, and you can just be like, hey, can you guys just tell me how amazing I am for like 10 seconds after I do this post because I'm like all freaked out? I think Simone Soul's garbage post challenge, she has a podcast episode on this, is really amazing for ADHD, neurodivergent, highly sensitive folks, where just realize it's essentially exposure therapy where you're going to have to do 100 posts over 30 days. But like the whole point is to realize that it doesn't matter. Like you posting a picture, like you saying one sentence, you having like what you posting what you would consider a shitty post, like it's totally fine. Other things, how can you actually create it, make it into a pleasurable experience? And this can apply to more than just posting. So things that can be really fun is, okay, I know, for example, I'm just giving an example. I know that am the happiest and in the highest point of my day right after I have coffee in the morning. And I'm going to amp this up. I'm going to make sure I have fuzzy socks on so I am warm, and I'm going to have my dogs around me, and I'm going to put on binaural beats for creativity, and I'm going to have a nice candle lit right next to me. So like making this like lovely little pleasurable experience while you're about to do the hard thing. So like doing the post thing. And then one other little thing, you didn't mention this directly, but it is totally okay to block people that you're afraid of what they'll think of you. Like you don't have to become the better person who's like, if you're like, I really don't want to deal with all the mental stuff around my college peers seeing what I'm doing these days, and like that's what's actually blocking me, create a new account. unfriend them, block them. Or like if you have family members that you're like, I really don't want to post. I don't care about posting to like everyone, but like when I think about my Aunt Sue seeing this one post, like I like really am triggered, just block them. Like that's totally fine. Okay, and Suzanne, conflicted with having a social media handle that's my name versus creative words. Does it really matter? No. What do you suggest and why? It doesn't matter. You're a one-to-one coach slash tarot reader considering starting one-to-one tarot mentoring. I don't really use Instagram considering changing it from my personal to business instead of starting from scratch since the live function is for 1,000 people. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I've seen people have branded names and then they switch it over to their own name, but that's because they're like pivoting. So, or like they want to talk about more topics than the one topic they started with. So, like, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 years ago, when you're maybe your handle, right, you're going to change your handle to like Crystal Tarot XO. I don't know. Like you have like something that's very tarot oriented as the handle, but then 5 years from now you realize you also want to be doing astrology, or you also want to be doing Reiki, or you want to pivot to something else. If it's just your name, then it's like it's kind of easier to do the pivot because it's just following you as the person. That would be an example of why I've seen people switch back to their name, but it honestly doesn't matter. People don't remember handles. Yes. Perfect. Yeah, do the thing that will actually allow you to take action. Christine says, do you have any tips on how to use your present contacts to offer something new that you are doing that is a lot different than what they know you for? I've been an energy-based body worker and then a chef mindful cooking educator for many years and have been studying remote energy healing intensely for the past 5 years. I'm having a block around starting to offer this to integrate into a whole new way of teaching and seeing clients. I know I just have to do it, but I can't get myself to make the plunge. I feel like you need to like rip the band-aid off in the way of like, I have something to admit to you guys. Like I feel like that would be like actually make this like a really cheeky, interesting, like, oh my gosh, I have a secret to tell you type thing. And if you can kind of create that air around it, I think more people will read it and you get to tell a story around it and you're gonna get over it. So that's what I would do is and that's not like general advice, but if you're like, oh my gosh, there's this thing that I don't want to tell you, or like I was all nervous about telling you, like people are gonna be lean in and be like, oh my gosh, tell me. There's an opportunity there. But I mean, to tell a more general story around this, I've had a lot of clients and a lot of friends where like they've done a semi larger pivot, and it's like honestly not that big of a deal. Like and you even said that it's like it's honestly not that big of a deal. It's like you just start talking about the other thing. I think if you tell a story around it, it can be a more natural transition because they know you. So if you can tell almost like an inception or origin story around it, I think that could be really cool. You don't have to do this, but it could be really interesting to for you to like draw parallels between the two of like 5 reasons why being an energy-based body worker for the last 10 years has trained me to be top tier mindful chef, like start drawing parallels between the two things that you're transitioning between. Okay, Ada, how do we shift from being known for one main? Oh, okay, lots of pivots right now. How do we shift from being known for one main thing, in our case, sound healing and immersive musical experiences, into more teaching programs and methodology? Theme of the day, everyone's pivoting. So for this one, you're not actually pivoting, or tell me if I'm wrong, Ada. You're going to still offer your music, but you're going to be teaching more programs for transformation. Yes. Okay. So you're not like teaching people how to be sound healers, correct? Because if it's like I am doing sound healer and then I'm teaching someone to be a sound healer, that's like a very like straightforward transition. But you're like, we are sound healers and we're going to teach people about a spiritual transformation on some level. So, I mean, honestly, I think you just need to tell the secret. Like, I would probably make a big deal about that one because it's almost like it feels like an evolution of a brand, right? It's we've done all of this stuff and they know you and it's like directly related, right? It's like they're like right paired right next to each other. Obviously, only a portion of your audience will want to be along for that journey. It could be like 80% or like 90% even, but they for sure are following you because of the sound healing. And now we're taking them over to the transformation. So you're going to keep doing the sound healing. I'd probably do this like I would a launch where it's like, mark your calendars for February 14th at 9 a.m. because we have really important announcement to make, or we have something incredible that we've been keeping under wraps for weeks or for months, and we're finally ready to tell you. So, and then you keep doing the countdown. It doesn't have to be like weeks away, it could be days away, but like you keep doing the countdown for it, because it's like it's triggering people's minds of like, there's an announcement, there's something different coming, like I want to know what it is. And for everyone else, this is a really fun thing to do for launches, especially if you have a new program or like you're doing a new free event that's related to your course. Having the countdown for you even announcing there's something really buzzy and fun around it that actually gathers people's attention. So that's what I would do for you, which is slightly different than Christine. But I think because it's like this evolution of a brand, I think you having this countdown timer and being like, mark your calendars, and then you actually making a big announcement around it, like a big reveal, would work really well for you. And yeah, build hype for the transition. Something different is coming. Yes, yes. And then you said, we're struggling because how do we identify who in that audience wants our new thing? That's not your job. Your job is to communicate the essence of the thing and they decide. You don't need to figure out. You tell everyone and they decide. Okay. Oh, this has been so fun, you all. Thank you so much for being here. Christine says, I love that. Shifting into a more spiritual based healing coming from a more clinical background, shifting from a focus on the body. Yes, yes. So I see all of our questions have come in. Thank you all for spending the last couple hours with me. This has been so, so fun. Give me one more key takeaway you want to remember for the rest of the week, for the rest of the day. You want to make sure you carry forward and bless us all with your own integration. So glad you're able to make it. Just says, let myself experience the best case scenario. Okay, let's look at this last question from Suzanne. While you all are typing your key takeaways, you're essentially, do you think people are still thirsty for tarot content? I feel like I see the same things over and over from readers, and I don't want to do that. Should I narrow my audience and niche more? What tips might you have for finding my audience? I have doubts they exist, even though I know they do. Suzanne, I had a podcast episode a while ago. It was like over a year ago on, then find it. This. Okay. I had a friend on my podcast, Emily Rose Divination. She does Lenormand deck readings, and I had her on. She like doesn't teach YouTube or anything, but she's built her entire business, and it's like a full-time successful Lenormand reader and educator, which is like a very niche deck, just by having a YouTube channel. So I listened to that podcast episode. There's so many good things in there. And then just to respond to what you said, it's like, that's bullshit and that's a limiting belief, right? Because I just watched like a gazillion Instagram reels last week on the transition of, what is it, like Uranus into Aries or whatever. Like everyone's saying the same thing at the beginning of each month. Everyone's like, what's your, for the example of astrology, it's like what is your astrological whatever for January based on this sign and this thing. It's like everyone's talking about the same thing, and it doesn't matter. Like we want to see them all. It's not just like one person talking about one thing. It's like your unique perspective. You don't actually have to make it. There's such an opportunity with, I think, tarot and astrology when it comes to like, or any divination practice. Like there's so much opportunity. You have like this built-in collectively relevant thing. So I wouldn't worry that much of having a super unique niche around it. Something will naturally come, and then check out that podcast episode because I think you're going to find some good things in there. Okay. Oh, she's your teacher. Wow. Okay, perfect. That's great. Well, I had her on the podcast because I knew her from a group I was in, and I was like, can I just like grill you on how you use YouTube as like this really niche card reader? And she said yes. So that's a great episode. Christine says, rip the band-aid off, do it to figure it out. Yes. AK's takeaway is value your regular mention of the courses and how they can help with specific issues. I struggle with sitting down to do them as I've not created a process to be regular with it. Okay, so that's a fun thing, AK. So what we're doing, because we just transitioned the regenerative business ecosystem from Kajabi community to a Facebook group. And I was like all in on doing the Kajabi community because I wanted to be off Meta and blah blah blah, and then like no one was using it. So we just last week switched from Kajabi community to a Facebook group, and it's like significantly more active, and a lot is going on in there. And also, I think what we're gonna do, AK, just because I know you're an RBE, is I think we're gonna start doing some accountability pods because like we have four larger programs within RBE with like copywriting alchemy and evergreen ecosystem, secret attraction formula, and peak visibility. I think we're going to do some accountability pods because they're technically all self-study programs, but because we're in community together, like we're going to do some pairing around like create some accountability so that people who are moving through the same program at the same time, there's actually a little bit of, or quite a bit of incentive to like, okay, I gotta actually gotta watch this video because I'm meeting with my accountability pod. AK says, I just love the spontaneity of these Q&As and getting to hear everyone's unique questions. I do too. It's so fun. Yes, accountability pod. Yeah, I'm really excited. I haven't like drilled into the exact, I'm not sure if we need to like limit the amount of people in them, but we're gonna like create little pods for people. Okay. And for those who are still on and you're thinking about joining the regenerative business ecosystem, it is open this week for 2 more days. So Thursday, this is our first time opening the membership publicly since last July. So this is our special opening. Its doors are open until midnight Hawaii time on Thursday, January 27th. So we would love to have you in, but also feel free to DM me on Instagram at the Dirty Alchemy. I'm the one in the DMs. If a robot responds to you, sometimes we have like our many chat programmed with little keywords, and the robot will like see a keyword and like respond. And it's like, oh, that wasn't me, but then it like marks it red. So it's like the balance of many chat responding, and it's like getting triggered and I don't want it to. But if that happens, just be like, hey, I'm trying to talk to Sam, and then it'll mark itself as unread and I can actually respond to your question. But thank you all for being here. Thank you all for the RBE folks for weighing in on things. And I will see you guys. For my RBE folks, we'll see you in the group. We have one more takeaway. I really love hearing your real-time responses. Oh, yes. I love that. Thank you. Not in a bro marketing groups. Okay. Thank you all. We'll talk to you soon. And if you have any questions about RBE, I would love to answer them for you. And I will see my RBE folks in the Facebook group. Okay. Bye, everyone.